effects controls. So the aim of this flight is to introduce the airplane's primary and ancillary controls, their, their method of operation, and the effects on the airplane during flight. So we'll have a look at the primary and ancillary controls, what their primary and secondary effects are. We'll have a look at the method of operation, how we use them, and the effects on the airplane. So what we'll actually see in flight. So for an airplane, we'll say the call sign is Alpha Bravo Charlie. The type is a Warrior, so Piper Warrior. Fuel, let's say with 182 litres on board. Oil, we've got 6 quarts. Flight time today will be 1.0 hours. And ATIS, let's say we've got information Foxtrot. So in terms of the radio call today, I'll be doing most of the radio calls as it's your first lesson. You won't be used to the radio phraseology. So I'll be doing the radio calls. Startup, we'll both have a look at a startup. We'll grab our QRH and I'll direct you through each of the items. Taxiing will be done by you. It's quite simple. I'll show you as well how to taxi. Run-ups will be done by the both of us. We'll grab our QRH, our quick reference handbook. Takeoff will be done by me. Departure will be done by the both of us. I can pretty much begin the lesson straight away. Training, so I'll demonstrate the maneuver and then I'll hand over controls to you. Return will be done by you. Landing by me, taxiing by you, and shutdown we'll both have a look at together. So in terms of the primary flight controls, we've got 3 primary flight controls. So we've got the lateral axis, the control is stabilizer, so the primary effect is pitch, and the secondary effect is airspeed. So the reason being, when you have a nose high attitude, you've got a quite high angle of attack, and that's going to cause a lot of drag, which will decrease your speed. And if you've got a low nose attitude, you've got a low angle attack, you're quite aerodynamic, and that will increase your speed as well. So in terms of that's controlled by the back pressure, so applying that forward and backward pressure. So longitudinal axis, that's controlled by the aileron. The primary effect is roll, and the secondary effect is yaw. So what we'll see in flight is, we'll use control column, roll towards the left, and the aeroplane will yaw towards the left as well. That's because when the aeroplane is rolled, it starts to slip, and that relative airflow hits the tailplane, which causes the yaw in the directional turn. Then we've got the normal axis, the control is rudder, the primary effect is yaw, and the secondary effect is roll. And I'll show you as well in flight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to touch the rudder pedals, which are the bottom black pedals. I'm going to yaw towards the left, and the airplane will roll towards the left, and vice versa for the right. And the reason being, because the outer wing travels a greater distance than the inner wing. Let's say you're rolling towards the left, so the right wing travels greater distance than the left wing. Therefore, it needs to travel faster to keep up, and that generates lift as well. So in terms of secondary control, so we've got carbon heat. So it's hot, unfiltered air, and it's used below 2,000 RPM to prevent icing, and it reduces engine RPM, and you'll see that pitch and yaw in flight. So it's a black control. I'll show you. When you switch it, if you push it down, it's on. Push it up, it's off, and you'll see the pitch and yaw in flight. I'm going to apply that carburetor heat, and the RPM will decrease, which will pitch the nose down. Since we don't have enough engine power, we don't have that much speed, and it will yaw towards the right as we don't have that slipstream effect anymore. So the mixture will be only done by me, and it controls the fuel going into the engine. So if you lean it, there's less fuel going into the engine. Incorrect ratio reduces RPM and pitch and yaw. So what you'll see in flight as well, I'm going to lean the mixture control to about halfway. The engine will start shuddering. The RPM will decrease, and you'll see the aeroplane's nose pitch down and yaw towards the right. So throttle controls the RPM, so it also controls how much air is going to our engine, and you'll see that slipstream effect. So I'm going to increase it to full throttle. You'll see the aeroplane pitch nose up and yaw towards the left. And similarly, when I decrease the throttle, it will pitch down and yaw towards the right. Limitation is red line, so on our airplanes is 2,700 RPM. So you've really got to manage that. And higher speed means more sensitive controls, but you've really got to make sure, especially with red line, because we've got that stress on airframe. The management technique with smooth control inputs, and the undesired aircraft will be damaged to the airframe. So the error is abrupt controls. So make sure you have smooth control. Higher airspeed means more sensitive controls. greater total reaction, which makes it more sensitive. So flaps. So what ratio do flaps control? So they control the lift to drag ratio, um, and it works verbalize white arc. Remember, we've got that threat of airframe damage. So verbalize white arc, and then extend the flaps one save time, and you'll see that balloon sink. We extend the flaps due to the increase in lift. The airplane's nose will balloon up, and we retract it. It'll sink. So make sure you do it at one save time. Trim works in a natural sense. So if you're holding, um, if you're applying back pressure, trim back, and vice versa. If you're applying forward pressure, trim forwards as well. You should be able to let go, and the aeroplane in a correctly trimmed position will maintain the attitude. So competencies, no competencies for this lesson. It's just a demonstration lesson, but a few things I'm looking for as part of the Part 61 manual standards. So complete checks in accordance to checklists, so follow that really thoroughly. Being plus or minus 1.5 meters cell lines from the cell line during taxi, so make sure that yellow sign line goes in between your legs. That's a good tip. And utilising that handing over, taking over procedure, because that's one of the threats that exist. The threat of who's in control, the error be incomplete procedure, and the other side of state be lost in control. So the management technique is using the handing over, taking over method. So that's really important. So make sure you have a good active listening watch in the training area. It's quite busy. You want to have good situational awareness of, and it provides a mental picture of what traffic is doing. How should we handle the controls? So smooth inputs, and how do we identify traffic? So what you use the clock code. And because we've got that one of the threats, there will be poor lookout. Management technique will be eyes outside the clock code, and then beside aircraft state is air proximity of end. So make sure you identify traffic and don't assume your instructor has seen the traffic. Make sure you have a good thorough look at, and make sure you balance the airplane as well. So that concludes today's pre-flight.